Through hundreds of wars, hundreds of leaders being changed or killed, still this country has developed into one of the greatest countries in part of Europe. Today, I'm going to talk about Italy. In this presentation, I will talk about the background of this country, the famous ancient Rome, and lastly, the historical building, the Colosseum. Well, to begin off, Italy, its official name is called the Italian Republic, which is located in the heart of the Mediterranean Sea, with a population of 61 million people, which makes it the fourth most populous Europe member state. Talking about history, Italy has been through 7 ages. First, there's the prehistory, where 40,000 years ago, first ancient people arrived to live on that land. After this, there's the ancient Rome, which we will talk about in a bit. Then there's the Middle Age, which Italy was seized by Ostrogoth in the 6th century and has ended in the 14th century. Then after this, there's the early monarchy, where it began in the 15th century and ended in the 18th century. Well, this was the first time that Italy has divided into hundreds of states and cities. And after this, there's the Italian unification, where it began in the 19th century, but then was fallen in the 18th century by war of wanting power from one another. After this, there's the fascist regime, which began in the World War, where it was being led by Benito Mussolini, but then was fallen in 1922. And after this comes the Italian Republic, which began on June the 2nd, 1942, which finally turned Italy into a republic country. After being turned into a republic country, Italy has 2 houses which separates the leaderships. So there's the prime minister and there's also a president, which has the same power, same leading power. Having to do this type of governmental thing, Italy has become the has the rank 3rd largest economy in part of Europe and the 8th largest in the world. And end of 2013, 61 million inhabitants lived in Italy, which was mostly in Po Valley and some with Rome and Naples. Talking about languages, the official language is Italian, but there's also other people who speak Arabic, Albanians, Spanish, Ukrainian, Tamils, Polish, and Hindi. After having a lot of language, there's only one largest religion, which is the Roman Catholicism, which is the famous one. And there's only 21% of the population has no other religion, leaving only 2% leaving only 2% for the people to believe in other religion. Now, to talk about ancient Rome. The Roman Empire was first started in 8th century BC in a small town, but was then turned into an empire by the wake of Julius Caesar in the 1st century. Then in 300 BC, real political power were put into Rome, which made a great expansion in the military force. And having this power make the Roman people expand, fight wars to conquer almost the entire Europe. This great idea was being led by Julius Caesar, but then was being murdered by a group of his enemies. And then in 29 BC, Augustus was the new leader of Italy, and these people ruled for 56 years. And after their greatest leader died, 22 emperor was being replaced, but was also murdered after by their own soldier who put them into power. So after all this, Rome was then collapsed and having to lose its province one by one. Now, we're going to talk about the famous historical building, the Colosseum. The Colosseum is a large ellipsoid oval shape which was built by the Roman emperors, and it was used as a host for special events such as gladiator fights, for animal hunt up, or even public execution. Well, back then this was one of the biggest buildings ever built in Italy. It stood up to 4-story tall with an oval shape and a roof of awning of canvas. And this Colosseum can hold up to 50,000 spectators. Firstly, this famous Colosseum was first designed as a special entertainment for the people to demonstrate the generosity and the wealth of their leader, but also an opportunity for the people to actually see their ruler in person. As time went by, true colors were revealed. The main purpose for this arena was for blood sport and death. But then in 404 CE, the blood sport was finally abolished by Emperor Honorius. And then after this, there's an earthquake which destroyed almost half the top of the Colosseum. Then later, repair were occur in 467, 472, and 508 BC. After being repaired, it was still in use for wrestling and animal hunt up till the 6th century. And in the 12th century, it was used as a fortress for the royal family. In 1231, another massive earthquake occurred, which left the Colosseum in even bigger, in a bigger mess, which left it as a massive, vast source of material, which lead people into stealing statues to melt it for limestone, and stealing other iron slabs to use it for money and other stuff. But then still, this Colosseum was still in use, but this time its purpose was for occasionally religious processions and play. During the 15th century, finally in 1744, Pope Benedict XIV banned any other to ever do anything in the Colosseum, to have it being left out as a famous memorial arena for the people who lost their life there. To this very day, this is a magnificent monument for Italy. In this presentation, I've talked about the history of Italy, the famous Roman Empire, and also the historical building, the Colosseum. Well, from my perspective, Italy has been through a lot of changes, a lot of wars, a lot of worse scenarios, but still, this country has managed to get a great leader to actually lead this country and develop it into one of the greatest country in part of Europe, and having to have it as a famous tourism to this very day.